This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Dumela, good morning, hello and welcome to a very early start here on Tswalo Kalahari. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on board here. A lovely bull wildebeest that we are looking at. He's just hiding behind that camel thorn. It's a little shy early morning. So very good morning, my name is Carl. Behind camera is Morgan. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome to your very own live safari in the African wild. Well, you can see that the sun is just starting to make its appearance on the eastern board. And we thought just coming out here, we always have to appreciate the plains game. And enjoying a wildebeest just like that standing still and watching us is always a nice thing. So just once again, my name's Carl and behind camera is Morgan, my partner in crime. We'll obviously make this all happen. Thank you so much for joining us on this live and interactive safari. We are bumbling around this morning. We are going to keep it local, and we are going to see what we can unearth. And just by taking your time, taking it easy, that allows you to pick up all the little details of nature. Going fast is a nice thing, but going slowly, you really have the time and the luxury to pick up all the fine little details that you would otherwise miss with a bit of speed. That's why I enjoy walking safari so much. It really allows you to tap into all the smaller, finer things. So this male, this would be part of his core territory. And early morning like this is typical behavior, getting up, doing a little bit of ruminating. He'll move around a bit. But what he's doing over here is a defined area that he actively defends. And he wants to wait for the lovely ladies to come through this area. Oh, you see I said ladies and you see how quickly he responded. So just by behavior, you can see that it's a bull. So generally, across the board, bulls like to be by themselves or in small bachelor herds, but females, there's a few exceptions. Females really enjoy the herd group format, let's say it that. Can hear all the monotonous larks calling this morning. They are very, very vocal, and there's a lot of them calling around us. So what we'll be doing is we'll be going west, but we'll just be doing one or two dunes. We won't be going very far west. And within the dune streets, and as well as the dune crests, that's where we are going to be looking for all forms of wildlife this morning. Insects will take a little bit of time still to emerge and warm up. So I think what we'll do is, while we are moving, we'll look for some nice tracks to start the morning off. And then in the mix of things, we'll look at a plant or two, and we'll see what else pops up. And then we'll definitely be making our way past that pan that we closed off with you folks yesterday. And we're going to go see if that little bird that I think I saw is in and around that pan. Everything tells me it was it. Because the coloration of the beak that I saw was very distinctive. And fingers crossed, that'll be a very, very big tick for me. It is very far for its distribution range, but I was reading up on its common occurrence within more northern parts. And the weather that we went through on the 25th, 26th, obviously that hit the eastern border of the country, that bird could have been pushed off very far, of course, from where it normally is. And it's not uncommon for us to have one or two rarities entering and staying a little while at a pan or two. Okay, but I think we should leave this lovely wildebeest. Let's see if we can get that lark on the top there. Morgan, can you see it on top of the tree? Morgan's going to get straighten us out, and we're going to see if we can... There we go. Singing his little heart out. Just remember, if you guys have any questions or comments, don't hesitate, please. If you are under the age of 18, send us an email at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And then for everybody else, just go to the website and then head over to the live Safari page, and you can submit your question there. Oh, and on cue, there he goes. Lovely call, and a very distinctive call at that. Very easy to recognize, and also the abundance at the moment makes it lovely and easy. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to start utilizing this road. We do have enough light, and what we're going to do is we're going to start scanning this lovely substratum in front of us, and we're going to see for any tracks that we could maybe utilize and show you guys. Got a nice constant breeze coming in from the east, so that's from behind us right now. And everybody should be waking up. That lovely, almost mackerel-like looking sky. Very, very beautiful sky this morning. I'm sorry, FC, I didn't get that. You're going to have to re-go there, please. A very beautiful place to show us. Oh. And it is even more stunning at this point in time. And but what a beautiful journey we have been on since you folks have joined us here at Xwale, since we have been live and interactive with you folks. To see the transformation, I mean, when Mr. Dylan Smith was showing you guys around here and getting you guys accommodated, it was a very, very different scene, being almost uniform red. I mean, there's hardly any ground cover at all. A few little bit of hardy, long-lasting grasses and then the trees, but what a transformation it has been. But we're going to head on a little bit further west, but we're going to send you over to somebody to say good morning. Good morning and welcome to and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. We've just come across this lovely journey of giraffe. There's quite a few of them, ranging from all the way on the left to quite a few behind the bushes on the right as well. We've just been watching these two young males just sparring each other, kind of swinging necks, but nothing serious. You can see the young, slightly older bull now coming from the right. maybe to come and just interrogate, see what's going on. What's going What's going on the and sometimes the rib cages as well. Look at that bigger male just got in between them, saying that's enough, guys. Stop it. Yeah. My name's Pete, and behind the My name's Pete, and behind the My name's Pete, and behind the camera this morning rather, we're going to be heading. Well, welcome back, and we didn't get very far, to be honest. We just stopped over here and reversed the vehicle, and Morgan's got a great view from the vehicle. So, if you think about animals that eat, lovely call. Sure. Can anybody give it a stab to try and take a guess who was singing in the background there? Very songful, very sharp whistle, very melodious. It calls again. Morgan, it's on the right-hand side of this blackthorn here. Let's see if we can get you a little view, and then I want viewers to submit your questions or your answer to who you think this bird might be. It makes it a little trickier now. This is where, obviously... Oh, okay. Nice, sharp, songful whistle. This is where it comes to... So when it comes to learning birds, it's very tricky in the beginning. Same as antelope, because there's so many variants. But if you look at the family group itself, the family group has a very distinctive shape or general gist about the bird. And if you can start relying and focusing on the family group, you would begin to understand the relationships between different bird species, but also it'll allow you the knowledge to really build on your birding. And this is the same with birding, the same with tracking, the same with recognizing even antelope species, is getting the general understanding. So I want anybody that has an answer. If you don't want to, that's all good. But let us know who you think that might be. So what I'm talking about is general understanding. So this will work with tracking. If you look at track sets, there's generally certain tracks that have a very, very similar appearance. And it's the same format that you would follow. So if you look at this schematic over here, let me just hold it nice and tight, you would see that they are grouping birds in relation to the similarities or the morphological structure that the birds display. And if you can pinpoint certain features, it makes it so much easier, because in the beginning it is very frustrating. For tracking, you have to really dedicate time and time, blood, sweat and tears to start recognizing tracks. So with that beautiful bird that we had there, you're going to start just looking for a general shape of where the bird would kind of fit. You can see over here, I'm going to use my thumb over here, you can see that the bird we were looking at doesn't look anything like that. All right, you can see that swift and swallow type vibe. It didn't look like that. It didn't have a massive long tail. There was no bright colors. There was no crest. So we're not using coloration now, but we're using the beak shape and length. We're using the general size of the bird, the tail length. There's certain features that you can see that can give you an indication of where this bird might be. Definitely, I think it wasn't that bird. I don't think it was a flamingo. Was it a flamingo, Morgan? No. Margot, okay. Margot, all right, sure. Okay, Cisticola off the bat. So its position, it can trick you to make you think that it might be a Cisticola, but Cisticolas aren't very songful birds. That bird had a very songful whistle, and it's one of the species that call very, very first on the onset of the morning light. Wow. Morgan, can you show us that there? Oh my word. Look at this, folks. Consulting detective. All right, you guys are on it here. I won't lie. Those are some good answers. Testicular first, and then detective said they're a melodious lark. So larks have fairly short beaks, and they're quite straight. That bird had a slight bend. There, it's busy calling again. Had a slight bend within the beak, and then it had a little tiny white eyebrow. Where larks are very cryptically colored, they're a little bit more stockier in appearance. But there's two birds here in Tswalu that call very, very, very early, on the onset of light. There is some beautiful clouds rolling in over the Coronaberg, and you can see just the contrast of how dark those clouds really are. But guys, that is very, very nice to hear that you guys are putting out such amazing answers, because when I started guiding, I didn't know what a testicular was. I didn't know what a lark was. Well, I knew it was a bird with feathers, but yeah, well done. I think more on the lines of, if I say the family group, I give it away. Lovely clouds rolling in from the east, and it does look like it's moving slowly. It does look like it's rolling in slowly from the east. Yeah, so the general gist of the bird length, the bird leg length, sorry. And if you take a look at the bird, it's definitely a passerine. So you look at birds in South Africa, a large majority of these birds are within this group, which we refer to as perching birds. So where they have 3 toes facing forward and they have 1 toe facing backwards. And that foot structure, anisindactyl, is perfectly designed for perching. So it allows the bird to perch on various items. And then you get non-passerine birds where their feet are adapted for various specialized habitats. This might be swimming, it might be walking in mud, it might be even running. Ooh, Indigo Girl, you are very, very close. Ooh, Indigo Girl said a white-browed scrub robin. Ooh la la, we are so close. It's not even funny. We are in the right family group. We are in the right group, Indigo Girl. We are getting better. I like all the answers coming together. We're helping each other out. And that's the enjoyment about it, just getting involved, being social about it, and sharing knowledge, because knowledge is power, no matter what the field is. If it's politics, if it's history, if it's natural, knowledge is power. It gives you the ability to make great decisions. And also, it enriches your soul, because giving that information across and seeing the enjoyment that people get out of it, and then also what you feel from it with people, is so lovely. All right, Indigo Girl, you are so close. Geographical variation with that family group. We are in the southern something with the robin family group. All right, Claudia, we are a little bit north of the Karoo. Also very nice knowledge there, knowledge-based, Karoo scrub robin, sure. But we are north of the Karoo. We are in the southern, there's a terminology there. So that terminology along with the robin, and that is our bird. And that terminology means thirsty land or ever dry. amazing when you watch clouds. You always think that they're moving very slowly, but Morgan, just a little update from Final Control. It seems unfortunately the storm yesterday knocked Djuma out totally, so unfortunately we will not be visiting Djuma this morning. Okay, maybe get this bank over here to see how fast this is moving in this front piece. So normally if you look at clouds, you think clouds are slow moving, but when you have the time to observe clouds, they are very entertaining, because I love making pictures out of clouds, and then the view of them, the shapes and the variety is just so entertaining. But watching clouds and how fast they actually move is mind-boggling. And if you look at clouds can give you a fairly, they can give you somewhat of an idea of what is happening or what has happened. And the height of clouds is very, very important. So if you look at these over here, these are within about a kilometer. And you get clouds from a kilometer all the way up to about 15 kilometers up into the atmosphere. I mean, that is very high. So those very, very, very high ones, which would be referred to as Sirius, those are about 15 kilometers up, and they would have this very white, very long, wispy formation of them. So if we're looking at the picture now, the top right-hand corner, we're looking at it like a cirrocumulus, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not great in my clouds, I'm trying. So cirrocumulus, we're looking at about 6-7 kilometers there, and then this dark progressing movement of cloud over here that's going to blanket the screen very shortly. That'll be somewhat of a stratus coming through, and this is a very low-lying cloud. And if you look at the darkness of it and also the development, how the cloud is shaped, clouds are categorized on their shape and as well as their height. So this will be cumulus with the stratus. Stratus is referring to a complete layer or a complete blanket, and you can see across the screen there that is a continuous band of cloud. But amazing to see how that is moving. Look at that.
If you love to watch Wild Earth, then we are inviting you to join our Explorers program. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions. Join our guides for a chat around the fire, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn allows us to escape into nature every single day.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalu, Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite animal in the Kalahari has to be the aardvark. Its unique appearance, its ethology, and as well as ecology within this vast ecosystem is amazing, and something that I have been really lucky to experience on foot here at Tswalu.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. It's no secret that nature can heal. Some of our Wild Earth viewers are finding solace in the outdoors close to their homes during lockdown.
This is how I keep myself busy during lockdown. Beautiful little jumping spot.
I love walking in the open spaces near my home. Provides a moment of peace in a crazy world.
This is my fire escape with some of the birds I get to see. That's what it's like in New York City during lockdown.
Being in nature helps me to cope with the challenges of life and helps me to be humble and grateful.
It's magical watching everything turn into a winter wonderland as the snow softly falls.
Been doing lots of walking, dog walking, outside at parks.
This is my Ridgeback Drake. Our little slice of paradise is a provincial park called Hopewell Ross.
Connecting with nature is critical to stay positive during these tough times. Wild Earth encourages you all to find time to escape to nature.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. that is a call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
I'm not sure. I'm not hearing anything, and I'm not sure. I think they must just try and communicate it with us via this over here. Well, sorry about that. We are still on air. We're just having very bad comms issues at the moment, so I apologize about that. But let's leave these lovely clouds. I think we've been looking at them for a little while. But let's head off west here. Oh, that's what we actually initially stopped to look at. Is that little patch on the right-hand side there. You can see somebody sitting in the middle. You can see the shiny body and the darker body at that in comparison to the rest of the patch. The patch is light brown. And he is still very chilly at the moment. And that is a dung beetle, obviously where he's gone to sleep last night. But if you take a look at poop that has been left behind by animals, poop would not move around so efficiently if it wasn't for insects. And if you think about insects and their role within all ecosystems, they play a very, very important role. Being prey, being predators, and then as well as redistributing organic matter. You think about the lovely time that we spent in East Africa with Isaac and his colleagues. I mean, that was absolutely magical. And to see those wildebeest move across those plains and chasing the rains was wonderful. But if you think about where they're going and what they're doing, it's quite remarkable. And the role player, the individual, the species responsible for all that to happen was these tiny little animals, these insects, and especially dung beetles. If you look at the grass there, where the females roam hundreds of kilometers in search of the rains, which stimulate fresh new growth of grass. And if you think about the grass is actually high in nitrogen and phosphorus, also very important elements for good growth. But if you think about those two elements, they're also very good once eaten. And the lovely wildebeest goes in search of really good grass, and that grass stimulates high and good quality milk production. But the raw essence behind it is because of dung beetles. So the wildebeest come through, they do a lot of pooping, and all that matter, all that material is left above the ground. And these very important role players, dung beetles, which obviously they work tediously throughout the day, they collect the dung, they roll it up into these beautiful little balls, they redistribute it from that given point, and they also consume it. Coprophagy is what we refer to as consuming of material, scat material, and once they find a suitable spot, they bury it. And then if you think about that stuff being buried into the soil, into the earth, it is actually enriching the soil profile itself. The grass is then able to produce a high value, let's say at that, and then the wildebeest come through. The wildebeest eat it, and then obviously the mom can produce very good milk that allows those young wildebeest to grow very, very quickly and very strong. But it's all because of these little role players that we 90% of the time regard them as pests. Think about dung beetles, you think about termites, you think about various insects, and it's because we don't have the knowledge necessary to feel comfortable around them. We see them as pests. Yes, they do make damage along the lines, but you can't stop that. You can't just say, I want the termites to stop eating wood. They have been eating wood for millions of years, and we got to think about it differently. We are the individuals which are encroaching on their space, on their habitat. They have been here for a very, very long time. So these little guys are very, very important, and obviously of vital importance to the ecosystem. But let me just start the vehicle quickly, and let me just get a little bit closer, and let's see what he's doing. I think he's just sleeping in his sleeping bag. Obviously, if you are looking at insects, please be very, very careful, and obviously you never want to hurt them. I'm going to pick him up very quickly. So he is snoozing at the moment. It's still very cold, but this is where we can be very careful with him, and we can get a good look. So dung beetles are remarkable. Oh, he's missing a front leg. Look at that. He's missing a front leg, and if you take a look on screen there on the right-hand side, yes, on the right-hand side, you'll see a very distinctive front leg. It's almost like a flattened out paddle, and that enables this animal to push dung backwards. So if you think about the animal will actually be doing a handstand while moving and rolling. Everybody says he is so sweet. Yes, and we appreciate what you do, my beautiful little friend. So that front leg over there, or arm, is very, very important, because if you think about this animal, when it is rolling its dung ball, it is physically doing a handstand. And Morgan, I'm just going to turn around here. Oh, he's waking up. And I want you folks just to look at this. So adaptations is what gives animals advantage. And I want you to focus on, look at this hind leg. Look how the leg comes down. Look at all these tiny little hairs. But then the end of the leg splits. There's two little forks that come out. And then there's this massive, elongated, almost like finger-like projection. That then enables this insect to grasp and cling onto that ball while it is pushing it backwards. So if you think about this design, it is designed in a manner so efficiently that it is able to do that behavior. Lovely antenna here in the front. Take a look over there. He's busy cleaning himself. Oh, he's waking up. Look, he's scratching his eyes. His eyes are actually over here. There's his eyes over there. And these antennae are basically what he uses to sense his environment, and then also to seek out those beautiful pockets of nutrients. Remarkable insects. And we owe these insects a lot, although that we don't like them. Okay, he's going to start moving. I don't want him to drop. When it comes to looking at insects, folks, obviously to appreciate them is a wonderful thing, but I just want to mention that when you are looking at insects, if you don't have the knowledge, just make sure you give insects a gap, because insects do sometimes possess toxins or poisons or even chemicals that can create quite an irritation. So if you don't have the knowledge about the insect, respect it. Give it a little space and really appreciate it from a distance, because we do have insects in South Africa and in Africa and globally that can create a lot of damage. We've got insects that are so accurate that they can emit a type of poison, a type of chemical from the thoracic joints and actually hit you in the eye. And that's obviously why you just have to remain cautious and respectful around all types of organisms, even everything you must have respect for. Thank you. All right, another beautiful bird singing in front of us over here, on top of the camel thorn there. Here we go, my buddy. Amanda, do dung beetles only work with herbivore dung? if you look at the makeup of the dung, herbivore dung is easily mulled or easily manipulated in comparison to carnivore scat, which is quite dense. I've seen dung beetles around carnivore scat, but to my knowledge, it is mainly hoofed or large herbivores, or herbivores in general, at which these insects are focusing in and around. Lovely bird that just flew off there. Is he gone? Oh no. He's in the road. In the road. He's a little bit far. You're going to see a nice plain white chest. Oh, there he is. And that was just a jumbled bunch of high-pitched notes. Almost just sounds like a noise. But that is a fawn-coloured lark. So if we're looking at these larks now, we're looking at the body shape and as well as the coloration. Larks spend a lot of time on the ground. They also do enjoy sitting in trees and low-lying bushes. But their coloration enables them to blend into these terrestrial environments where they would be foraging, just like this bird is now. Moving around very, very quickly, scurrying around for available prey. Here's another one. Oh, and... okay. Can you see him there? Just out of view. Let me just go forward for us here quickly. He's just sitting on the outskirts. The bird that we saw earlier that was singing for us was a Kalahari scrub robin. So a few of you were just there. You're in the right family, which is great because nonetheless, you are utilizing the knowledge, which is the most important thing. So Kalahari scrub robin. And while Morgan gives us a view over there, I'm just going to take my book out just so we can do a little reference. But while I look for this lovely bird in the book, just to touch up on some ID points, let's send you over to Pinder to say hello. Welcome back to And Beyond Pinder, where we've just come across quite a lovely scene here with some giraffe and zebra all feeding together. Really, really awesome. I think after this rain, a lot of this nice greenery is around, and it looks like these giraffe are really, really enjoying all these fresh green shoots and leaves that are being pushed through. If you take a look at those zebra as well, they seem to have found quite a nice tree that's helping them ease a scratch or two. That's a milkwood that they've chosen, and it's got quite a lovely rough bark, which is quite nice to help them scratch against. It looks like it's quite a popular tree. If you look on the one side, it looks like it's even smoothed out a little bit. So maybe a lot of animals have used this to rub against in the past. Look at that zebra just swaying back and forth. Looks like it's found a little stump that's broken off there, and that's able to get into all the little parts of the zebra's neck that he's really trying to ease. You can see his head shaking there, just trying to get inside his mane. Almost looks like inside the ear at one stage as well. My name's Pete, and behind the camera today we have Glenn, and it's quite a lovely morning here at Pinder. Really nice and cool. It's actually the first time I've worn this jacket this year, so exciting times ahead. I'm really, really enjoying this cool weather, and it's also a lovely time of the day for us to look for predators. So I think today we're going to spend a bit of time with this lovely scene here with giraffe and zebra, and then later on maybe move off and go and look for pride of lions that's been in this area. But for now, it's lovely just to sit here and watch these two feeding together. completely different feeders, so zebra being grazers and giraffe being browsers. But it is quite a common interaction to see with giraffe and zebra being together. They rely on each other quite nicely for keeping an eye out for predators. And obviously they really like this habitat with a lot of grass around and all these lovely luscious green trees. Back to that zebra now. You can see he's just changed the angle and getting into the hind quarters there. And swaying back and forth. Sometimes they seem to enjoy it so much they even close their eyes. They just get into a bit of a lovely state. But the zebra are also looking so nice and clean. We had over 20 mils of rain last night, which often will clean them up quite nicely. They'll just stand in the rain and not move too much. So back to that beautiful giraffe. Lovely female there. She's quite a bit older. If you look between her legs, she's got some loose skin there. Also in the front of her knees, you can see there's just folds there. So that just shows us her age quite nicely. Katie, that's an interesting question. So often in terms of males, the pattern will be a little bit darker as they get a lot older. But in terms of the size of the shapes as well, so if you look at this female that we're looking at now, the gaps between her spots are quite large. When the giraffe are young, those are a lot smaller and a lot closer together. So I guess in a way you could tell, but you can't be exact, obviously, in terms of the age. You can just tell whether it's an older giraffe or a younger giraffe by their spot pattern. Look at that. This female now using her full height to reach the top of that tree. It's a buffalo thorn, and it's actually got really, really spiky thorns on it. And for us, if you had to walk past it, it'd grip your shirt and rip it apart. But this giraffe just seems to be eating it with quite ease, not minding too much those thorns. Katie, if you also, going back to your question, if you look at the one that's just come behind this female, you can see she's quite a bit lighter, and those spots, those gaps between the spots are quite a bit closer. And you can also see, just in terms of her size, she's a lot smaller than this one that's closer to us here. So lovely to have all these sounds as well. All these birds starting to chirp a little bit as it's heating up. Some crested francolin going off on the side. Very, very peaceful. Look at that, this giraffe and how she's just grooming herself there. Maybe she's had a little itch or a tick there, just quickly got that off and back to feeding. But it's amazing to watch as she's feeding. Her ears will move independently, just keeping a careful ear out and listening to see whether there's anything that's not meant to be there, coming from behind her or from the side.
Jerome, they don't use their horns against predators per se, so they'll use them mostly to fight one another. Their biggest defense mechanism against predators is a kick. They've got quite a nasty kick. They can kick both forwards and backwards. So you can imagine it'll be quite hard to be very accurate with their horns, especially when trying to flee from an animal, or even confronting maybe a lion, which would only really come up to just below their stomach there, depending on the size of the giraffe. But yeah, their kick is quite nasty, and they've got those long legs, so you can imagine the momentum that they can get from a kick. With both those giraffe feeling quite nice and close to one another now. It's amazing to watch how she goes from tree to tree, just getting little bits from each tree. Look at her now, just closing her eyes as she's going deeper into that bush and just protecting them. There's a lot of sparks around there. Look at her now, how she is using that beautiful long tongue of theirs just to wrap around some of the leaves and rip them off. See there, as she's reaching, her neck can't quite get there, so that tongue is coming into play now. So Amanda, you can imagine with so many browsers and grazers around, well, mostly browsers, there's a lot of people or a lot of animals that want to feed on these trees. So they're going to have some kind of defense mechanism against the browsers, even though it doesn't seem like it works too well at the moment. But that may be the reason that this giraffe has moved from one tree to the next. And you're right, there are a lot of thorns around, and it's the reason we have to wear shoes on game drive. Otherwise, I'm sure a lot of guides out there probably would do walks and drives barefoot. It's amazing now to compare the size difference between these two giraffes. Look at the one on the left, they're a lot smaller and a lot lighter in color as well. And if you look at her tail, it's a lot shorter. So that fly swatter hasn't quite got its full extent just yet. Sorry, it's actually a he. It's a young male. So we're going to spend a little bit more time with these animals and see what they get up to.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Welcome back, everyone. We're still just sitting here with the zebra, and some more have just appeared from behind that thicket there. Quite lovely. They got a bit of a fright actually when they saw us. I don't think that's what they were expecting coming around the corner. These zebra are looking in really, really good condition. I think in the last few weeks we've had so much rain that this grass has literally grown overnight, and really green and luscious for them. Look at those two just rubbing each other's necks a little bit. Oh, bit of a kick. Maybe they weren't rubbing necks, but rather having an argument. The zebra in the middle looks quite a bit more dirty than the other two on either side, and perhaps she's been rolling around in a bit of clay soil. You can see now as it's moving to the right how dirty her back is. Seems like that's the stallion at the back, and he's showing a little bit of interest in these other two females that have walked off. They seem to be kind of trying to keep their distance between the two of them. One of the females earlier urinated on the ground, and the male picked up a little bit of that urine and did what we call a phlegm and grimace, where they take in that urine and they breathe it through and over an organ called the Jacobson's organ, and that tells them a lot of information about the female, but I'm sure the information he's trying to find out is whether they are ready to mate with. It's quite an interesting thing to read up on if you ever get a bit of time, and also quite some funny pictures you might see on the internet too of animals doing phlegm, and they lift their front lip and they bare their teeth. So we're going to sit here for a little while longer, and we're going to send you off to Pridelands.
A very, very windy, blustery and cold summer's morning, watching a pair of rather uncommon, in fact quite rare in this area, birds. These are lesser moorhens that you can see just moving around the edge of those long grasses there in the water. They're still sticking around here on the very western edge of Pridelands, which is gorgeous. So nice to see that they're still here, especially with all this windy weather. But all this rain that's falling is probably going to be making it much more likely that they stick around a lot longer. Hi everyone, my name is Mike Anderson. Behind the camera we've got Gert, and as I said, you've joined us here at Ecotraining's Pridelands Conservancy, where the wind is making it tricky. I'm not going to lie, we're looking for any predator activity, to be honest, because that's the kind of thing that will be happening now. Predators might be hunting or might have hunted last night, and we just thought we'd come to this area just to check. Lions were last seen tracks in this area, and we thought we'd check on these moorhens whilst we pass through, and here they are. So there's at least two in here, male and a female, but I actually think that there's a whole family here, because I've seen this one and there was another one left of it, and then I saw some movement in the grass even further left of that. So I think that that they might have actually hatched their chicks and be fledging them right now. It's very difficult to tell. I can't really tell which is the male, which is the female, to be honest. I think the female is a little bit browner, so this might actually be the female here. The female also doesn't have a red patch, or as much of a red patch on its bill as the male does. This one does have a bit of red though, so we'll have to compare the two when they're next to each other. Right now just snapping up any small insects that are at the surface of the water, as well as plant material like grass seeds, any buds that are around. Beautiful little bird, isn't it? Very neat looking. That white vent underneath the tail, soft brown coloration on the top. Very, very nice to see it still sticking around. And it's not the only relatively rare bird that's been seen in the area. We've also been seeing other types of crakes, like corn crake and African crake as well. Very super rare. So you can see the bird in the background. There's a much, much redder shield on the front of its yellow bill. So at the background there amongst the grass. So I think that might be the male. Also looks a bit larger, to be honest. And then in the left, behind where the female is on the left there was another one. I'm pretty sure I saw another one moving about there. So I think the whole family is up and about. We haven't seen the whole lot yet. It's not the only bird sharing this waterhole. There was some white-faced whistling ducks that are also here. The more birds here can be good, but it can also mean attracting more predators. Birds of prey especially, hunting for birds like this moorhen. And there it pushes itself into the reeds, further into the sheltered areas. Now these birds make a floating nest. Not really, I mean, it's attached to all this vegetation, but it sort of is a floating nest made of grasses and other material. Just at the edge of this small pan that we call buffalo pan or nyati pan. Usually nothing much more than a little mud wallow. Now it's filled up to the brim. Perfect place for all sorts of waders and frogs as well. If anyone's keen on frogging, this would be the kind of place that you'd go and wade through along the vegetation on the edges, looking for any interesting frogs, of which there are many, frogs and snakes. There's abundance this time of year with all this water. Extremely windy though. Oh, there's a bird of prey flying above us right now. There's a bateleur. It's not so easy to focus on with it's moving so much, but that's a bateleur. So that's not really the type of bird that would be hunting for those moorhen. That one's most likely looking for things like snakes, which I was just talking about. But it will catch anything else that it really can find. But they're often also seen following predators. Well, while that one heads off into the distance, what we'll do is we'll send you over to Phinda with the giraffe.
Welcome back to Anmi on Phinda, where we've got quite a lovely scene here with, it looks like 8 giraffes that are all following one another along the dam wall. And it's really, really beautiful. Something I haven't seen before on this waterhole. Look at them all kind of not too sure about what's going on. They can't go down either left or right, so one way in, one way out. Really lovely to see you. Look at all their ears pointing exactly the same direction. Almost looks like just carbon copies of one another. The two smaller giraffe in the middle. The one on the left there just focusing on something that's down the side of the wall. So lovely. You can hear that purple crested turaco going off on the side. Some orange-breasted bushwhacks. Really, really lovely sounds around this waterhole. Yeah, thanks Anna Marie. It is a really lovely journey, and they are on a bit of a journey across this waterhole, maybe to find some other trees on the other side, Not too sure why they're crossing it at this stage, but it's really, really so cool to see. And if you see them, they keep looking down to the left, down the side of the wall. Two of them looking back at us now. I think they just realized that we've been watching them the whole time. No updates? So lovely just to keep quiet for a little while and listen to all these fantastic sounds. Really such a peaceful morning out here. I'm going to forward a little bit and get a slightly different angle. Trusty old stead, getting her going. She's a little bit cold this morning too. Really muddy now, you can see all these puddles on the road too. Quite slippery, some of these roads we tried to drive on this morning. We had to turn around. See the rain just starting once again now. Hopefully it won't continue too much longer. It's a beautiful big Hammerkorps nest there. Can you see that, Glenn? Just on the left, and the Hammerkorps actually just returning to the nest. Look at that. Oh, and it's got something in its mouth. So it's quite far away. And it looked like it just brought a stick, so maybe this Hammerkorps is still building this nest. See that really, really big bushy nest. Oh, and off it goes. So this rain is picking up a little bit. Yeah, Hammerkorps make really, really big nests and always really close to water too. Imagine that's where their main source of food comes from. And also there are lots of sticks that they can collect to build that nest. But we're going to send you off to Tswalu, just while we get under cover for some of our stuff. Alrighty, well, welcome back to this side where there's no rain. Alright, I'm just busy taking a look at a track set over here. Just taking it nice and easy. There's some antelope that have moved through, but I thought I saw a cheetah track. It ended up being a warthog track. Shh, don't tell anybody. Alrighty, but let's just do a recap very quickly on some of those fantastic answers that was received. And I've just got feedback that there was a lot of people that came back with Kalahari scrub robin, which is 110% right. So if we look at the robin family, let's just go to the beginning here. What we've been looking for within the robin family, just like any bird family, is looking at the general gist of the bird. So beak length, beak shape, general size and appearance, tail length, leg color can even be a distinguishing factor between species within the family group. But if you take a look at these different species, you can see a general similarity within body structure. Look at that. All right.
And we didn't have the color or the light in the correct manner there in order to see all the fine details of this bird. But when we're looking at Kalahari scrubben, nice, beautiful supercilium or eyebrow, very, very broad, white, extending past the eye, slightly decurved beak. And if you look at all these birds, there is a slight decurve, especially in the top mandible. The top beak comes down a lot quicker than that of the bottom, but there's a slight tapering point on the beak. Nice uniform light belly, black or dark legs, beautiful prominent primary feathers, and then look at that lovely rustic rump. And then that there is very distinctive in flight. Also behaviorally, if you look at birds, this bird displays behavior that's very distinctive. Every time, well, most of the time, it moves around. When it is in movement, it will cock its tail in a very upright fashion like that. And then it loves to wag it like that there. It actually waves its tail most of the times that it moves. And then the vent being nice whitewashed. The bird call in the distance. Let's just give a listen there quickly. There it is. A Kalahari scrub robin. So well done to all the viewers that said Kalahari scrubben. And if you weren't right, it's not that you're not right. We are just learning together. It's not that you are incorrect. A for effort. You are taking the effort and you are trying. And that is 90% of the struggle, is people don't want to try. And as long as you give an answer, you are never wrong. You're giving it your best. Alrighty, but let's put this down for now. And let's continue. We're going to head down this cut line over here. You can see how straight this road is. We're going to utilize this cut line going west. And we are going to go nice and slowly, and we're going to see what we can find. So that sun will take a little bit longer to get to us this morning with the bit of cloud cover we have. You can see the clouds that are in front of us, believe it or not, were the same ones that we were looking at in the very beginning, which were further east. Look how fast that cloud formation has moved. Really remarkable. Now, what did I see there? Is that a stone? Or is that a piece of poo? Or is that a dung ball from a dung beetle? It is a piece of poop. On we go. And a couple of months ago, we would have seen all these blackthorns in flower. You can see there is just minimal amounts of seed pods on them now. And when we were viewing them a couple of weeks ago, they were flourishing with flowers. And now there is just a few seed pods that are still hanging on. And these seed pods are drying out. And as they dry out, the one side of the casing detaches from the other side, and the seeds fall out. Where is some seeds? Oh, all of these are gone already. Good job, tree. Seed dispersal, 10 out of 10. You don't want to get caught in this, because this is definitely one shrub or medium-sized bush over here. They get to about 2-3 meters, generally about 1.5 to about 2 meters here in this side of the reserve. But the thing is that you want to be very careful around this bush. This is where, within the indemnity, I like to say to guests that I see that you didn't tick the box for the free bush piercing that I offer. And that's because we need to be very, very careful around this over here. This doesn't pierce. This literally rips. And if I hold it up like this, Morgan, can you see all of this over here? You can see there's tiny backward-facing hooks that basically laden the stems and branches, and they are everywhere. And they are very, very hardy little structures. Hence the Afrikaans name swart hak. Swart is black and hak is thorn. And this is from the visual appearance of these backward-facing hooks that basically line this entire bush. So looking at its general shape, just like we were looking at the birds, we can see its shape. So if Morgan gives us a view over here, you can see the shape is very distinctive. It's got a small basal section, stems come up, and it's got this very bushy canopy. And then if we go, let's go to another one. Let's see where we can see now. There we go. Another one just over here. You can see the shape. Tracy, not that I'm aware of. Medicinally, it's not a very widely used plant. It will be very important for cover for animals, for feeding, especially the seed pods and the flowers. I've seen earlant, I've seen rowan and sable actually feeding off the seed and flowers through a certain period. But medicinally, I actually don't think there is a lot of medicinal properties. And I have basically been inspired by Steve, because it is a wonderful thing to be able to understand all the medicinal or medical properties out of these lovely, lovely plants. And I need to shape up. I do have some knowledge, but not as well as Steve explains to you folks. But I will make sure, Tracy, I will look up. I really don't think so, but I will look up and I will take a look if there's any medicinal properties that I have missed along the lines. Yeah, no. But we just have to be very careful around this shrub because it can inflict quite a bit of damage. But the cover that it provides for animals, birds and mammals is phenomenal. So if you look over here, you can see how it creates this uniform, almost impenetrable wall. And this is what we refer to as a bush encroacher. So this small, medium-sized shrub can make uniform and impenetrable thickets because nothing really wants to run through that. Those backward-facing hooks are going to create quite a lot of damage. And a bush encroacher basically means that this plant species is dominating an area, and it is being so dominant that it actually doesn't allow anything else to grow around it. You'll find some grasses at the bottom, but once it creates this uniform wall-like structure, nothing much else grows underneath it. And if you look at it, it does create a viable habitat for a lot of animals to hide in, mammals and reptiles. But if you look at the top part of the canopy, you would find that a lot of birds would find that as a perfect nest site. Alrighty, I just heard a bird there, but it stopped calling.
Imagine having your own secluded African bush home where you and your friends can enjoy the ultimate safari experience. If you sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer, this could become a reality. Tumbeta House is located in the heart of Djuma Private Game Reserve, the home of Wild Earth. You could win a chance to stay at this intimate wilderness retreat, offering you the rare and highly sought-after privilege of your own home in the bush. The prize includes 3 nights for 6 people and includes daily game drives, a chance to see the Wild Earth Camp, and have dinner with one of our guides. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer before the end of February 2021 and you could be heading to Djuma, the place that we call home. Available dates are limited, so terms and conditions apply.
What makes Anbeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
So there we go, look. All three in one frame. Look at that, isn't that cool? Oh, that is so special. That is exactly what we had been hoping for, is all three of them to come together and make the perfect little family portrait.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Right. Oh, look at this big beetle here. Oh my word. Let's see if we can get a view of this thing. See on the right there, Morgan? Oh, don't go away. We want to see you. Oh no. He's gone. A big predatory ground beetle. Along the lines, we'll look if we can catch a glimpse of this very ferocious predator. That's a bit too close. Yeah, I think that's too close. But he's scurrying under the shrubbery there. We're going to leave him be. And on we go. So once again, just a big well done to all the answers that came through correctly and the answers in general. It's a lovely thing to start out like that. And on the road, on the right-hand side. Lovely to see it sitting like that. Oh, and there it flies. That was a beautiful little bird. Let's see if we can get a look-see at it before I lab out the name. They like to nest in tree cavities, and they also take and steal a nest chamber of sociable weavers, these sneaky little birds. So we did speak of it yesterday. We did talk about it yesterday, sorry. Sitting in that tree, and there it flies. You see it there, Morgan? Along the shrubbery here, along the blackthorn wall. There, Morgan's going to get on it for us. Yes! Okay, so it's going to be a bit tricky, so let's get all of our ID points. We've got a nice speckled back, looks like yellow and streaky, yellow dots and streaky stripes. There it is. Alrighty. Oh, and he is off. Oh, it's chasing all the other birds. Oh, there we go. Lovely. Black and white streaky on the side of the head. Nice big black bib, and look what it's chasing. It's chasing a fawn-coloured lark. And if you look very carefully, you're going to see a nice red section. Nice red patch on the forehead and a very heavy bill. I don't actually find them sitting on the ground very often. There it is. Look how prominent that broad white stripe is, along with the black stripe as well. But the most distinguishing factor would be that heavy set bill and that red patch in between the eyes. Oh, and he is still there. A viewer asked a question about the blackthorn. One thing I can remember is that the stems are used. Oh, Wildcat, we're thinking along the right lines. Shrike, because of that little hook at the end of the beak that you folks can probably see. Not a shrike, but that beak, that very heavy set beak, is giving you the notion that it might be a shrike. So one thing about the blackthorn, you can actually use the stems for a substitute for a toothbrush. So if I'm guarding too long, I'll just pick a twig, splay the end, and then I'll actually use that end to rub in a slight circular motion on my teeth to remove plaque. Oh, and it is gone. All right. If anybody wants to take a stab at it, as part of the barbet family, and just like I said, that red patch in the front of the forehead between the eyes, and as well as that very heavy set beak, is very distinctive. Aha, okay. Yeah, so they love to hijack nests early evening of sociable weavers. Oh, okay. Kim! Well done, Acacia. Okay, we know you there. Don't worry. Kim, Acacia Pied Barbet, you are 100% right. Ah, okay, so looking at this, I don't know if we're going to get it. Yeah, so looking at this, we're going to use, I'm going to ask viewers, we're going to take a look just in the first two lines here above my hand. Just those first two lines, you can punch in closely there, Morgan, and we can look for the general shape of that bird. And if we take a look at plate number 41, just above my thumb here, you can see that color scheme representing to the bird that we just saw. So barbets and tinkerbirds, they fall within a group that have a very similar shape. So I'm just going to turn the page over here and we're going to go to plate. There we go, and that's the start of barbets. So if you look at barbets now already, look how distinctive. Oh, where's my little pointer gone? Let's just use something that I have on hand here. You can see already that, look how heavily set this beak is. And you'd find that some of these birds utilize these heavy set beaks to utilize food sources such as figs and seeds, you name it. But heavily set beak, and you can see the body shape representing through the family. So if I turn the page here quickly, you're going to see a family or group that is very, very distinctive. So barbets are larger species and tinkerbirds are small individuals. But look at that, how distinctive that patterning is. Red fronds, the front part of the forehead, the beautiful white eye stripe, or supercilium, and then that dark stripe coming through, and then there's the speckling and striping yellow that we saw. Very, very beautiful bird. Acacia Pied Barbet, well done, Kim. Yow. We've got some extreme birders. That little Kalahari scrub robin was singing his little heart out here next to us. I hope that everybody is having a fantastic morning, and it is lovely to have you on board here with us. The heat, you can just start feeling the temperature starting to change. That sun is starting to peek through a few clouds behind us, and that coolness, that very, very crisp, cool early morning air is just starting to change now. You can just start feeling a bit of warmth. And the smells are starting to change as well. I think it was Linda. How many bird species are on the reserve? I apologize if I got the name wrong. So if you look at the summer count, we're at about 150, give or take, a few here and there, but a general, oh, they're flying. A general number in the summer is about 150. Ooh, cream-striped owl. And in winter we go down to about 80 odd different bird species. Just bear with me, folks. I'm going to see if we can see this lovely moth. There it goes. Sit, sit, sit. Yes, Morgan, in the gap here. In the gap on that shrubbery there at the bottom. You let me know when I can stop. Lovely owl moth here. So Linda, 150 generally in summer. and then in winter we drop down to about 80 bird species. And that's obviously because the summer migrants and Palearctic migrants have moved back. Oh, yeah, no, you there? It's a bit of focus. There we go. If you folks see the dark-bodied animal in the central part of the screen, that is a beautiful moth sitting dead still there. I've just seen it in flight, and that's where I know it has landed. So you are seeing the top side of the left wing, and then the head is that little projection just off to the right-hand side. Lovely, lovely moth species, and a species that we prominently see now through Tswalu. I don't enjoy the name or terminology common. It really makes something sound very, very average. But if you look at that big false eye that you're seeing presented on the top of that left-hand wing, that false eye with that stripe coming down. Oh, beautiful Koran calling behind us. So that false eye with that stripe coming down is very distinctive. This is a cream-striped owl moth, and a very beautiful moth. They are really attracted to lights, like most moths are. Most moths are. And if you think about the function of lights, obviously giving us the ability to see under the cover of darkness, but for moths and nocturnal insects, it really confuses them. And that's because a large majority of them actually utilize a certain wavelength of light. And if you think about them orientate themselves, they actually use celestial bodies. And a certain wavelength of light would give them a direction or orientation. And our artificial lights, just confuse the living daylight out of them. But a really beautiful moth to see. Very widely spread over the majority of the country. And I'm going to show you, I've just got my field guide out here, and I'm going to show you a picture of what you folks are looking at, because it is very tricky where it is over there. We are looking at number 6. Look how beautiful. You can see that false eye and then that cream stripe extending down to the back of the wing. This is what you folks are seeing now. It's just the front, just the top of the left-hand wing. And you're just seeing this part in picture, and then its head, which is projecting just off the top right-hand corner. But a super beautiful moth to see. Can you see it there, right? Lovely to see that. And at night time, just their flight pattern is very distinctive. You have certain moths that have a very strong flight pattern. This has got a very slow, lethargic. Jamie, yes, those false eyes is where this family group gets its name from, owl. Because of those false eyes, you are 100%. Those false eyes, they are very important visually to deter a predator. So those eyes could trick a predator to making it think that it is larger than it actually is. And if you think about those false eyes, if a predator takes a stab at that moth, it'll hit the wing instead of hitting the body. And, you can have a little bit of damage on wings, but as long as it is not cracked or broken through the wing, the moth can still achieve flight. I've seen moths and butterflies with wings that are very tattered at the end, and they still fly perfectly. So talking about flight, this moth has a very slow, very lethargic wing beat, which is very, very distinctive. So certain species, if you look at hawk moths, they are very strong flying moths. And just by looking at the flight pattern, one can somewhat ID these lovely, lovely creatures. But very nice to see. And moths are very diverse. If you folks are astounded by the butterfly count on Tswalu, something that just absolutely mind-shattered me when I first started working at Tswalu, or started living on Tswalu, was the diversity of moths in this area. one day I came home and I'd left my outside light on. And when I got to my front door, I don't even have words to describe how many moths were in and around this light. It literally looked like the wall was moving. You can hear it clicking behind us. Just hold on there, Morgan. We might have to shoot east very quickly if this bird takes flight. Just hold on. Okay, that single sharp whistle, that was the beautiful red-crested koran. Alrighty, let's leave this lovely moth. Here's a fantastic bird on top of the small camel thorn at our 1 o'clock. 12 o'clock is always where my vehicle's nose is pointing. So generally here to our 1 o'clock, right on top of that little camel thorn, there's a tiny little bird. Oops. Oh, and there it goes. Just as I was about to say something on it. Anyway, let's leave him and let's push on further west. Yeah, so moths are very important when it comes to pollinating nighttime. Oh, sorry, FC, the comms broke up there. I didn't get the viewer's name. But duration on Tswalu, if I'm not mistaken. I've been lucky enough to have been on Tswalu now for the past. Leslie, good morning, Leslie. I've been lucky enough and privileged enough to be on Tswalu for the past 4 years of my professional guiding career, and it has been joyous times being out here in this wonderful and vast wilderness landscape. And the format that we have got nothing stopping us. So as a guide, you have everything available in front of you to reach the uppermost limits of an understanding out here. And then as well as with guests, we can do whatever we want. There's no structure, there's no time frame. Everything revolves around, hello little juvenile. Oh shame, you're just sitting there trying to warm up. Everything revolves around being out in the bush. There's a little juvenile. It looks like a wattle starling. You can see from his plumage, there's a branch in your way. So we're just going to look at him very quickly where he's sitting, and if he remains, I'll try and pull the vehicle forward. We are literally a meter away from this bird. Watch on the right here, Morgan. Just wait. Just be ready. Okay. Today is the day we're going to catch the red-crested koran doing its beautiful display. Full display. So, just relating back to this bird, you can see that its plumage is very underdeveloped. You can see a very fluffy layer there on his shoulder. Those are very, very young feathers, and then you can see a more defined layer of feathers coming out after that. His just general appearance, we can see this as a juvenile. But what he is doing here, I do not know. Because where we have seen all these wattle starlings is in these communities. So individual nests made, but within a community surrounding other nests. And there's no nests here. Yo, that bird is close. Can you folks hear the hooting noise? Indigo girl, yeah. Jam-packed morning with all the birds. It's always happening, and that's why I enjoy birding. Let me pull just a little bit back, and let's see if we can get a better view for you folks on this lovely little bird. Okay, don't fly. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Let me just move slightly back. can also make it feel a little more comfortable. Oh, and there's more branches in the way, but that's okay, because now we're giving him a little bit of space. And I'm just moving back over here, because there is a bird that is giving a distinctive hooting noise. And the vegetation is nice and short, where we might be able to see this very elusive species. A lovely scene over here north, looking north. You can see the sun blessing its rays onto the mountain on the far top right hand corner of your screen. Very beautiful over here. We have taken a look at this plant before, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and keep an open ear for this bird, because this bird is not far. It's a quail that loves these grassy plains, but with all the ground cover now, you can see that when a bird's in amongst all the stuff, it just disappears. But a really beautiful species of plant that is prominently displayed around Tshwane is this very fine fern looking like plant. This is elandsbeen, and hence the name elandsbeen. It produces a very large seed pod. So it produces like this column of tiny little florets, and then once the flower is done, it produces a very large seed pod, hence the name elandsbeen. But if you look at this patch over here, you would think that this is one individual plant, and this is another plant, and this is another plant over here. But the crazy thing about it is that it has a very, very extensive root system. And almost indefinitely, all these plants over here in front of me on my right hand side, and then here on my left, all of these are interconnected by this very extensive underground root system. So if you look at these adaptations that plants have, having these extensive storage compartments is very, very important, because when you have favorable periods, you want to basically make as much as possible, and then you want to store it for later. And then once you go through unfavorable periods, you have some goodness to get you through before reaching favorable periods again. And I've read that these roots can be as long as about 8 meters in length, so very extensive. And I don't see much feeding on this. You can see there's been somebody nibbling here. Actually, no. This looks like leaves that have been removed or have fallen off, because it is very clean. If somebody nibbled on there, you would find little bite marks from the teeth or the mouth structure which has removed it. That is very, very clean. But high in tannin content, so we don't find it. We don't find a lot of herbivores or hoofed ungulates eating on this beautiful plant. But one thing that I have found relishing on this species is that of porcupine. And porcupine is the largest rodent that we have in southern Africa. And it is a rodent that has a very, very hearty stomach. So getting into these roots, which obviously hold quite a bit of moisture, is great, but you need the stomach in order to digest it. And this root over here would have a very high tannin content, which would deter most things, but not that of a porcupine. And they move very far in order to find. It's a little poop. Amy, I'll grab that snake. No, I'm just joking. I won't grab that snake. So I can be relatively sure that there wouldn't be a snake around here now, because the snake would have been resting through those colder periods under the cover of darkness, and it's not that warm yet. So a snake would be very lethargic, but thank you for the very kind words that I should be careful of the snake. So you're worrying about me. That is just so kind. But snakes would only be active once it gets a bit warmer. And if there was a snake here, that snake would remain motionless. It doesn't have the necessary energy to do something.
When on safari, there's nothing better than an evening spent under the stars chatting around a fire, with the sounds of the wild all around you. If you sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer, you can build your own memories by joining our guides for regular fireside chats. Subscription payments can be made by PayPal, credit card, and now bank transfer. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily. In a world full of upheaval, we all need a quiet and safe space to breathe. A place where anxiety and stress don't exist. A place where life carries on as normal. Escape to nature with Wild Earth.
Hi, I'm Damon, and I come to you live every day from and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I think the most underrated wild animal is the buffalo, and I think many people want to see them because they're a member of the Big Five. But then once it's ticked off the list, it's on to go and look for things like big cats or herds of elephants. It's quite a sensory overload, taking in their smell and the sounds of them moving around you.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
All right, just to wrap on this beautiful perennial herb or shrub. So if you look at this extensive root, it is a great source of a tannin and then as well as a pigment that can actually be used to stain and tan leather. And this underground rootstock can be so poisonous that it actually can be life-threatening, or it can actually kill livestock, believe it or not. So that shows you how much toxins and poisons are within the rootstock. But when we have this beautiful plant flowering, and you can see just in front of me, here's a patch over here, and just in front of me on my left-hand side, you can see there's some more. It's got a very distinctive fern-like appearance, being bipinnately compound, so many little leaflets with on one leaf. So when it goes through the flowering period and it produces a seed pod, I've actually read along the lines that the seed pod can be used as a substitute for coffee. So you want to remove the seeds, you want to ground them down in the correct manner, and then obviously extract the beautiful aroma and taste out of the... Maybe when we find some seed pods, we'll do that. In relation to Steve, maybe we should try and make a substitute coffee out of this beautiful plant. I see Morgan shaking his head like he wants a cup of coffee. Oh, you shaking your head like that, Morgan? Oh, I thought you were shaking your head like this. Okay, all right, I got you. But a beautiful plant in and around Tswalu, and something that is prominently displayed throughout Tswalu. All right, let's leave this beautiful elandsbeen and let's shake a leg further west and let's see what we can find. And then look for a beautiful flower in the next couple of minutes and hopefully we can find it. Come on, come on, come on. All right, from flowers and plants to more flowers and plants. Let's send you to Pridelands, which they've got some more pretty things for you folks.
So as you see, I'm sitting surrounded by the beautiful green of this time of year, and it's really spectacular. And with all this green vegetation is also coming lots and lots of flowers. Now, not all of them are natives. Some of them are aliens that have become naturalized in South Africa, like this beautiful red flower that you see right over here in front of me. This is called a red star zinnia. Now, red star zinnia, the scientific name is Zinnia peruvialis or peruviana, basically indicating that it's descended from Peru and those South American regions. Now, this plant is naturalized in many parts of South Africa and in fact all over the world, even in places like Hawaii. It's just very widespread, it's very tolerant of certain conditions, and it doesn't have many predators outside of its native range, and that's why it's become naturalized, because it's living free, and it doesn't have a huge impact on the environment, although it is considered a type of a weed. Now, in southern Africa, because it's not a native plant, there aren't too many uses associated with it, because it hasn't been around for that long. Probably arrived here around about the time of the Boer Wars, when the British soldiers and army was bringing in fodder for their horses. And with that fodder came seeds of all sorts of plants, some of which have become quite abundant. Now, in South America, where this plant originates, there are certain uses for it, and they talk about the bark being used. So sort of right down at the base of this plant, it's not really woody, but the outer stem can be used to make all sorts of decoctions that can then be used for certain stomach ailments, things like diarrhea, upset stomachs, cramps, that kind of thing. So it's quite widely used in those areas, but not so much here in southern Africa. Perhaps if it remains here for another 100 years or so, there might be some uses starting to be used in some of the rural areas. But with the march of progress, I think more and more traditional medicines are not being used, which is a bit of a shame actually, because they've definitely got a lot of traditional uses are based on actual scientific evidence, so that's really great. And there's lots of other plants here as well, which I find really interesting. For example, this plant here, which I know I've spoken about before. This is one of my favorite, in fact, this is my favorite grass. And I don't know if it's easy to see with this green background, but this plant here is called a blue seed grass. And blue seed grass is one of my favorites because not only is it very delicate and beautiful looking, each and every single one of these seeds is born on its own tiny little hair-like stalk, but it's also used by blue waxbills, which are very cute little bluebirds, to make their nests. In fact, we saw one not long ago with the students, and they always ask, oh, they don't only make it out of seagrass, blue seagrass, and it's true, they don't, but this particular blue waxbill literally made its nest only out of this very delicate grass, which is super great. And then many birds will then use not only the blue seagrass to make its nest, but then take something like this, Natal redtop, which is another soft, fluffy, very delicate grass seed, and use that to line inside the nests to make it nice and soft. Now, as you can see, it is very, very windy, so this time of day there's not too many birds about. We saw those moorhens moving around by the grass, but most of the other birds we've been looking for have been very, very well hidden. In fact, the bird that we were looking for after that was called an African crake, and that one was hiding in the deep grass. We couldn't see it. Anna Marie, I'm glad that you like these plant segments that we do. It's something that we don't get to focus on too much because often there's other exciting things going on like lions and leopards and elephants. But with weather like this, it's very difficult to find lots of these animals. In fact, I think most of the predators like lions and leopards that we've been seeing yesterday the students saw 2 different leopards and there were some lions a few days ago seen, like 2 females and 3 cubs in this area that we are right now. But with this wind and this weather, it means those animals are hunting very successfully and most likely have managed to catch things, big or small, and have dragged them into thickets somewhere. And as you can see, it's very thick right now. So it gives us an opportunity, until we find those larger, more charismatic creatures, it gives us an opportunity to explore some of the other things that we see. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. And there's really an abundance of it. In fact, this year, many of us guides have been talking about the fact that we've never seen such abundance of flowers and different types of plants that we've never seen. I mean, the wild foxglove that's just in front of the vehicle right over there. I've never seen a wild foxglove growing so tall like that and so abundantly. I mean, certain areas of the reserve where we walk can literally find whole fields of them, taller than me. I mean, they say they only grow to about 1.5 meters, but this one's as tall as I am, and that's nearly 2 meters tall. And there are so many cool plants. I'm just going to come to you now. like this. I mean, I don't even know what this is, but they're everywhere at the moment. This beautiful purple flower over here is probably one of the wild peas of some sort. It's got like a pea-like pod over there, but there's just like loads of them. I've never seen them before, never really noticed them anyway, because they just weren't that abundant, but now they're just everywhere. Things like flame lilies, for example, which really thrive on wet conditions, are also really, really abundant. So we'll keep driving around and keep looking, and when I see interesting, cool plants that I've never seen before or that I haven't seen in abundance before, I'll definitely keep showing you. Anna Marie, I hope you like it. I hope you continue liking it. But in the meantime, what we're probably going to do is maybe just drive down the road a little bit more, see what else we can find, hey? Jerome, that's a good question. And actually, a friend of mine was asking me the other day about a fruit that she saw, which she wasn't sure if it was edible, but the birds were eating it. So what I told her to do was to take the fruit, get the juice from the fruit, and first put a little bit on a soft part of your arm, like a moist part of your arm, like in the crook of your elbow here. And once you put it there, leave it there for half an hour or so. It doesn't have to be a fruit, it can be any sort of plant. And if it starts to burn or tingle in any way, don't eat it, because, I mean, your mouth is much more sensitive. Then after that, if there's no tingling or weird burning sensations, take a little bit of it and just put it on the edge of your lips. And then if your lips start tingling or burning in any way, same thing, don't go any further than that. Next, in the tip of your tongue. And then after that, if you've had no reactions at all, you can eat a tiny bit of it. But then always remember not to eat too much at one go. Maybe you decide that it is edible and it's perfectly fine. Don't just scoff like 10 of the fruits, because chances are your body's not used to eating it and you're going to get a stomach upset and cause yourself other problems. So it's easy enough to identify if plants are poisonous or toxic. Another common way to do it is don't mess with any plants that have a milky white latex, because that's usually quite toxic. Like Tamboti, for example, of which there isn't one that I can show you right here. But Tamboti is very toxic. If you get that latex on your skin or in your mouth or in your eyes, it causes major, major problems. That's not always the case, though. It's so weird. There's a plant called a num-num, which has a little red berry, extremely tasty, but when you break the num-num berry open, it's filled with this white latex. It literally drips with the stuff. So it looks extremely toxic, but it's completely harmless. So it's a rule of thumb. It's not always the case, but yeah, I don't know how else I could explain it. That's basically the main ways to do it. Anything with milky white latex. And they say things that smell like jasmine, things that have a jasmine smell, flowers, for example. Don't eat the fruits or touch the plant too much or get the latex on you, because jasmine's usually an indication of toxicity. But in the meantime, we'll send you over to one of the other locations, probably Swalo, to be honest, because I think nowhere else is actually able to go out today because of this crazy cool weather we're having. But in the meantime, I'll send you over to Swalo whilst we see what else we can find.
Yeah. Well, I would agree with Mike that I too have not seen so many flowering plants on Tswalu since I've had the luxury of being here. And with the rain at the moment, there is little flowers busting out from every corner. I like that how he's explaining to you folks that, you must have the correct knowledge before just consuming plants. There's a few ways in which one can understand if a plant is poisonous or not. But obviously having the correct knowledge of the species and the family group, and then how to test it is very important. You shouldn't just go around eating things, because that's when you can get hurt. But while we've been sitting here, we've been hearing this curricane button quail calling, and I was just fingers and toes crossed that we could get a view of this little sneaky bird. But it is shy, and I'm hoping that while we sit here and enjoy the plants, that it just comes out and says hello. But a very beautiful plant that we're looking at is this beautiful little thing right over here. I mean, look at that. Tiny. And these flowers have just started opening up. So flowers, a lot of flowers actually close during the nighttime period. And that's to eliminate the petals being damaged. This could be from insects or from frost. The petals will actually close, and then once the sun starts to warm up, they will then open to greet the sun. But a lovely formation. This is part of your morning glory family, and this is I. Hakelina, a very, very beautiful and very distinctive flower at the moment. So we can find these stems being up to about 2 meters long. And if you take a look over here, the stem has got a very defined and hairy appearance to it. Can you see there, Morgan? Morgan, you can talk. People know you here. A very, very hairy stem. You can see all these tiny little hairs basically running along the stem, and then as well as the underside of the leaf. So just like with the birds, we can recognize certain plants by looking at their leaf structures. So already now we have found two ways of IDing this plant. It is a creeper, you can see from this stem over here that's laying on the ground, and then the tiny little hairs. So plants generally share common characteristics, and that's why they are grouped together. But then look how distinctive. Oh, look here, they're mating. You see here, Craig? Morgan? Oh, okay, you can't see. Sorry, my apologies. I've got a very short attention span, and everything that moves, folks, gets my attention and gets me excited. There was just 2 Hemiptera bugs there that we've lost view. But anyway, very distinctive underside. You can see how prominently those veins are set, and you can see the formation of how the leaf curls upright and almost wants to meet each other. And then we can use the beautiful flower. So let me turn it like this up here so you folks can see. Look how pretty that is. It's almost like a pink to a dark purple in the central part. And then if you look very close, I'm going to use a pointer over here. You can see the anther, the male reproductive structure in the middle there. The female whole reproductive structure will be referred to as the pistil. So there's a terminology for all the male bits put together, and then there's a terminology for all the female bits put together into one. But you can see that is the male reproductive parts there. And then you can see this lovely structure of petal. Look at that. So beautiful. And like I've mentioned before, creepers are prominently displayed around at this point in time. Let me just leave it like that there. So a lovely flower to sit and enjoy. And there are so many at the moment in and around here. Lincoln, January showers bring February flowers. How cool is that? I'm so writing that one down. That is fantastic. And it's lovely. Some of these plants out here, I won't lie to you guys. I don't lie. Lying is not within my soul. Some of these plants over here, I can't even pronounce the scientific names. But just enjoying them and looking at them is by far the most important thing. A name is a name. Same as a person's name. I don't know why somebody would be angry with me if I can't remember their name. But if I can remember you by your face, I will. That I can never forget. I can never forget a face. But a name is a name. But recognizing and remembering something is by far a little more important, just by its beautiful appearance or its nice appearance. Yeah. But let's leave this beautiful creeper. And I mean, look at all these different leaf structures here. So just underneath my hand, look, there's 1, 2. Okay, my hand like this. 3 different formations or different plants just within this small patch. I mean, it's tremendous. And if you think about the area that we're in, we have a very relatively low diversity count in comparison to the rest of the country. But nonetheless, you guys have been exposed to the wonderful diversity on Tswalu, and we are very lucky out here. Alrighty, Morgan, shall we start up this trusty steed and let us move a little bit further west? Who is in the road there? Ah, it's our little starling. It's our little wattled starling that we saw earlier. It has now gone on a walkabout and has decided it's going to feed. It's been calling out for its parents. I don't know, maybe it just got separated from the group. Being over here where there's no nests in sight, the bird obviously has the ability of flight already. And you can see it is got the ability then to find food as well. Okay, let us start and head off. Okay, So we're going to get a little bit further west, but while we go west, let's send you off to the east.
What a mystery, everyone. So, I want to ask you all, what is this that I'm holding in my hand right now? What is this strange material? I did collect some of it this morning on a fence line when we were driving along, and I want to know from you all what you think it is. I will await patiently your answers whilst we enjoy the beautiful nature around us. Actually stopped here because we saw this very, very beautiful red patch of these red star zinnias that I was just showing you a moment ago. And as I was mentioning, we haven't been seeing many of them in the last couple of years, and this year, because of the extremely wet conditions, they've just exploded out with abundance. So there's a nice big patch of them over here, and we've seen them everywhere. As I mentioned, they don't seem to cause too much destruction. They just grow in patches like this. Yeah, the red star zinnia native. But anyway, back to this interesting thing that I have here. Does anyone have any more ideas what this thing right over here could be? So bring it a bit closer there, Gert. Yeah. Okay. So that there. I'll pull it a bit tighter. So maybe that will help you. Eddie, that looks a lot like yarn. Doesn't it just look like a piece of string, right? A piece of yellow, maybe golden string. It isn't yarn, although it has been known to be used as such. In fact, if you Google this particular substance, and you Google it and say coat or jacket or cloak, you will find they have used this substance to actually make and weave garments. But it's not. It's extremely strong. If I pull it like this, you can see it stretches slightly, but doesn't break. And I'm using quite a lot of strength here. Megan, it's not a type of vine, although I suppose vines can be used in the same way. Very, very strong. People can swing on the vines and often use them as lashings for their for homes and things in traditional building. This, I don't think, has been used to build anything in a traditional sense here in southern Africa. But it has other potential uses because it's not well researched just yet. In fact, humans are trying to create this. Sharon has got it spot on. Sharon, this is golden orb web silk that I collected earlier. And it's amazing. Just look at that golden color. It's absolutely spectacular. You almost never get to see it this color. As it gets older, it starts to fade, especially on the web. But this is quite fresh. We collected this morning as we were driving along a fence line. The spiders were all along the fence, and unfortunately some of their webs were going across the road, so we had to move them. Just like I said yesterday, we gently moved them across, but then I collected some of that web which was going to get wasted, just to show you. Now, actually, what I want to do, I'm not going to do it right now because it's going to take a little bit of time, but I want to try and plate this. I never know how to say it, plate or plait. I want to plait this into a sort of string and just see how tight it is. And I want to try and see what I can lift. There's a 5-liter water bottle here. I'll try and see if I can lift that 5-liter water bottle with this piece of spider silk. So now this has got such high tensile strength that it's even stronger than steel. So steel that's this thin, I could easily snap it and break it. But this piece of spider silk won't break if I do that. It's extremely strong and extremely flexible. So there's other things that people want to use them for. Things like bulletproof vests, for example, light and flexible or stab-proof vests, that kind of thing. They want to maybe use it for surgeries. Something this thin and this strong could have really good potential for things like eye surgery, which is not really a thing at the moment, but you know, all sorts of different types of surgeries. Sorry, Ger, I know I'm moving it around quite a lot, but it's amazing stuff. Really, really incredible stuff. So I really hope that we get to see a bit more of it. And this year there's more spiders than I've ever seen before. well, at least for the last few years. During the drought, when there wasn't too many insects about, the spiders weren't very abundant, but now they're abundant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this into a string and then see if I can lift a water bottle. All right, cool. Wish me luck.
It's no secret that nature can heal. Some of our Wild Earth viewers are finding solace in the outdoors close to their homes during lockdown.
This is how I keep myself busy during lockdown. Beautiful little jumping spot.
I love walking in the open spaces near my home. Provides a moment of peace in a crazy world.
This is my fire escape with some of the birds I get to see. That's what it's like in New York City during lockdown.
Being in nature helps me to cope with the challenges of life and helps me to be humble and grateful.
It's magical watching everything turn into a winter wonderland as the snow softly falls.
Been doing lots of walking, dog walking, outside at parks.
This is my Ridgeback Drake. Our little slice of paradise is a provincial park called Hopewell Ross.
Connecting with nature is critical to stay positive during these tough times. Wild Earth encourages you all to find time to escape to nature.
Hello everyone, my name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide and most importantly the questions that you ask give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Imagine having your own secluded African bush home where you and your friends can enjoy the ultimate safari experience. If you sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer, this could become a reality. Tumbeta House is located in the heart of Djuma Private Game Reserve, the home of Wild Earth. You could win a chance to stay at this intimate wilderness retreat, offering you the rare and highly sought-after privilege of your own home in the bush. The prize includes 3 nights for 6 people and includes daily game drives, a chance to see the Wild Earth camp, and have dinner with one of our guides. Sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer before the end of February 2021 and you could be heading to Djuma, the place that we call home. Available dates are limited, so terms and conditions apply.
All right, and still on the green things. A lovely medium-sized tree, or I'd say bush, more found in a bushy format than tree format. This is velvet raisin bush. We touched on it very briefly the other day, and I'm so jealous that you guys are looking at a golden orb. Oh my word. That spider, or that group, absolutely is so incredible. One of the toughest and strongest silks produced by spiders. And if you look at their appearance, they look so scary, but they are so beautiful in their own respect. Just like this lovely tree, it is too beautiful in its own respect. Velvet raisin bush, so we touched on it very briefly the other day, but I haven't got the time, or I haven't got the opportunity to really elaborate and show you guys this wonderful, wonderful tree. So they get up to about 2.5 meters in height, and they have a generally a rounded appearance to the top of the canopy. And there's many ways, that we can ID this lovely tree. So one way we're going to take a look at first. Hello, good morning. Nice big corn cricket. Let me see the right place to see here. So let's use the stem here, Morgan. Can you see that stem there? Let me just move this branch, or even this over here. This is actually perfect. There we go. Look how straight the stems are. This tree or shrub produces very erect and straight stems and branches. And these branches, a little bit thicker than this, obviously, would have been heavily utilized back in the day by the early inhabitants, the San people, a very, very beautiful culture and a people that unfortunately is disappearing, especially their culture. If you think about the history behind these beautiful indigenous people, they have some very intriguing stories, and unfortunately, from being westernized, that is being lost. But the San people would have utilized these stems or branches in order to make the shafts for arrows because of their straight appearance. And when it is harvested, if it's got a slight bend to it, you can actually pinch it in between two rocks. And once this stem dries out, it'll keep its straight formation. So lovely. So we can use the very straight or very straight stems or branches. And then if we look at these lovely leaves, I mean, look at that. So you can see the leaf structure in comparison to what we were looking at earlier as that ground cover. You can see the leaf is a lot bigger. And if I turn it in the correct manner, Morgan, I just want you to let me know if you can. Can you guys see it almost has like a whitish appearance if I turn it just like that? That's because there's the whole leaf is covered with these very, very tiny hairs, giving the leaf a very, very soft, beautiful, delicate touch. It's lovely. They are slightly toothed, or most of them are slightly toothed. If I turn it on the other side, it's also got a whitish underside, you can see there. And then if you look at the margin of leaves are very important. So if I hold it there correctly, you can see that the margin is slightly toothed. So if we use all these factors along with the flowers, which are not, unfortunately, around at the moment, they produce these beautiful little yellow flowers, changing to orange and brown as they grow through their processes. But now we can use the tiny little fruiting bodies. Take a look at that. That would be a little fruiting body starting out there. And that'll be a couple of days before it turns this pinkish color, and then a little bit more into its development, it goes almost a dark purple, and then it goes jet black, and then it starts withering away. But that over there is a very wow. I want you to try and punch in here. How close can you get? Now, folks, look at this. This is something you don't get to see very often every day. So let me just get, oh my word. I'm going to point it out. Hopefully we can see it. So if you focus on the end of this blade of grass, Morgan, can you folks see that tiny little white dot? I just want to ask you if you can see it there. Can you see it there, Morgan? It's very small. I think what we'll do is I'll just earmark this and we'll get the small camera and we'll show you something incredible. You can see it. Oh, okay, there we go. So I know I'm jumping around here. This little white dot that you're seeing just in front of this blade of grass is an egg. It's an egg, ladies and gentlemen. And it's an egg attached to a stalk. You can see, if I maybe turn it in the correct manner, you can see this tiny little, almost like hair-like appendage attaching it to the actual leaf. This has more than likely been laid by a lacewing. And if you think about that stalk with the egg sitting right on top of it, that stalk is so thin that an ant will not recognize that it is there. And that's a special and remarkable ability to keep the egg safe until it has reached its proper development in order to hatch as an immature version. But that is remarkable. Look how tiny that thing is. That is an egg sitting on a stalk, folks. That is incredible. So more than likely laid by a lacewing. Okay, so I'm going to leave this section over here very gently, and we are just going to utilize this guy here. So these fruiting bodies, velvet raisin bush, are also still utilized to this day and age. Local people within the Northern Cape would actually utilize these fruiting bodies when they come into their ripened state. And what they will do is they will take these fruiting bodies. You can consume them just on the go. So when we're guiding and tracking, especially when we're tracking, and these fruiting bodies are in their ripe formation, myself and my colleague will just grab a few off the tree. We track for 2-3 hours, and we just have one or two. They've got a little pip in the middle. Obviously, that is the seed containing the brand new little tree, but it has got like this sweet, bitter taste to it. So really nice to have on the go. But then kids, to have a form of a Kalahari milkshake, will actually take these fruiting bodies, put it into milk. They will then mash it down and mix it, and it actually taints or changes the color of the milk, turning it this like pinky color, and it does give it somewhat of a sweet taste. So we like to refer to it as the Kalahari milkshake. So really, really nice to use. But that there is what they want is to they want an animal to consume that. Obviously, that seed goes through the digestive tract. The fleshy parts are then obviously utilized, and then the bird deposits the seed somewhere to create a brand new bush. A very, very beautiful tree and very easy to recognize here. Along with the leaves, the flowers, which would be yellow in the beginning. Obviously, yellow is a very attractive property for insects. And then going to a Renee has like a microscope. I have just had the beautiful and gifted privilege of being out here. So you only see, I love that saying, you only see what you know. If you don't know it, you don't actually see it. And nature has taught me that I need to slow down. Okay, that's nothing. Nature has taught me to slow down and really take it easy. So when you look at something, look at it. Don't just, generally see it. Look at it for what it is. For what it is. Or for what it is. But really amazing. And you only see what you know. So if I didn't have the knowledge, I would just be like, oh, it's maybe just a spider web, and that's it. So nature has been my teacher, and I've been very lucky. But let's send you over to Mark for a little bit.
Now, I know we were going to look at the golden orb of spider silk, but we found something else that's equally cool. This is a whole massive clump of tadpoles, and I suspect they are tadpoles belonging to a African bullfrog, which you can hear calling in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. Just going whoop, whoop, whoop. Now, these tadpoles are all clumped together in one massive group. Now that is a defense mechanism. Now these tadpoles individually are very vulnerable to predators, but as a group like that, there is a chance that they can look like something much larger, and so their normal predators, like a bird, let's say, or an insect, a dragonfly, might not suspect that this is actually a bunch of individual tadpoles. It's a very clever defense mechanism. So they clumped so close together like that. And, if they're underwater, you might think they're safer, but there's plenty of predators under the water that can get them. If they stay at the surface clumped together, it makes it much more difficult for anything to get them, which is super cool. Now, this particular waterhole is an old quarry. Obviously, when they were constructing roads here, this is one of the places they would have quarried some road material. It's filled up with water. It's very old. I mean, it hasn't been used for, years and years and years. But it's filled up with water, and it's probably quite deep. So it's become a home for a lot of little creatures. Not only the African bullfrog, but you can see there's even a little foam nest frog's nest. It looks like it's half dissolved, so there's probably all the tadpoles have fallen in already, as well as an abundance of dragonflies and other things around here, which is super great. I haven't been able to see the African bullfrog, but it's somewhere there, along the edge of the water. Can you see it, Gerd? No. Somewhere along the edge there. Just hear it. But it'll be sticking close to its tadpoles, because although not all of these youngsters will necessarily be its youngsters, it's a great sound, right? I always think it sounds a bit like it's trying to egg someone on, like, what? Come at me, what? Although when I'm listening to it now, the more I listen to it, the more I think it might not be an African bullfrog, and it might actually be a red toad. I'll have to double check that. It's definitely one of the two. I think it's an African bullfrog, but it's not as abrupt. It sort of slowly goes upwards in a crescendo. Now, what I often tell the students is that the red-backed toad, or the red toad, sounds like you're trying to accelerate to beat the red light on a motorbike, which you shouldn't do, by the way. That's not a good thing to do, but it's just a way I help them to remember the red toad, the red light, when you accelerate to beat the red light. I'll have to double check this sound, but anyway, in any case, whatever it is, this is definitely a group of tadpoles. It would be really great to see if something did try to attack them, how they might then react to it. They're just eating algae, and they also maybe eat anything smaller, like mosquito larvae, for example. Oh, something gave them a fright. Look at that. Look at that. As one, they all disappeared under the water. They'll come back to the surface, I'm sure. Here they all come back. I wonder if something maybe attacked them or gave them a fright, or perhaps there was some sort of food source which they were interested in. That was interesting. The longer I listen to it, the more I convince myself that this is a red toad. Because African bullfrogs are also quite visual. They'll usually sit quite prominently at the edge of the waterhole and you'll see their head. I think this is a red toad. What do you all at home think? What do you think? Red toad, African bullfrog? Give me your thoughts. I do wonder if these tadpoles take turns to see who's going to be at the edge and then cycle. Have you ever seen those videos of the emperor penguins? How they take turns, the ones on the outside slowly move inwards and the ones that are on the edge sort of cycle around. Every time one finds itself at the edge, you see it pushes itself. You can see their little tails pushing themselves back towards the center. Man, I kind of want to know what they feel like. I'd love to scoop this bunch out and just feel them wriggling. It's so interesting. I'm not going to do that, of course. Tadpoles and frogs are very sensitive to any sort of environmental change, especially, for example, if a human being was to go and try and pick something up like this, a frog or a tadpole or a toad. If you've got anything on your hands, like hand sanitizer, for example, we've all got hand sanitizer on our hands now all the time. Uh-oh, they've split up. Safety in numbers. Get back together, everyone. So with a hand sanitizer on our hands, this alcohol-based fluid, if we touch something with a very moist skin, it can really damage them. It can hurt them because they absorb chemicals very easily through their skin. So anything like sunscreen as well, very, very dangerous to touch frogs and tadpoles. Oh, well, they've definitely split up now. You can see a few of them trying to get back to the main group. Put themselves into a vulnerable position here. Dale, it certainly would be easier for a large predator to scoop them all up. I mean, I'm trying to think of what bird might be very large to scoop up the whole lot. Like a hammerkop, for example, or if there was a duck that was going to eat them, sure, it could probably scoop up a whole mouthful, but there aren't any ducks here right now, and there are no hammerkops either. So what they're protecting themselves against right now are more common predators, things like dragonflies. Things like underwater insects, or even other frogs, for example. Many frogs are cannibalistic, so they will eat the young of, or their own young if they were hungry, and the young of others. But when they clump together like this, they fool the prey into thinking that it's not individual tadpoles, but something much larger. Remember, we have high brain functions. We can puzzle things out by figuring and by looking and by, we're clever, we're smart, we're able to work out puzzles. Most animals are instinctive, and so they just see something like this, and they don't think about that there could be individuals in that clump. They just see the clump, and they go, oh, there's something there. There's a big thing that's moving. So it's very clever. Very, very clever. You see other animals doing stuff like this as well. Some ants will do things like this, especially when they're on water. Well, that's normally because they want to float and not drown individually, so they float as a big raft. Bees will do this. They'll clump together in a hive for protection, safety in numbers. Even something like impala, or zebras even. Zebra's a good example. They're all running together in a clump, and which is able to confuse a predator and cause them not to be able to hunt effectively. There's a bit of drizzle once again starting here. We might end up having to take cover if it gets any harder than this. Oh, there's our radio. Sounds like there's elephants that have just arrived at Ndlovu Dam near our eco-training camp. And maybe we'll also start to make our way in that direction, not only to hide from the rain, but also to maybe spot an elephant or two. So whilst we decide what our next move is, we'll send you back over to Tswalu.
Mike, I'm very jealous. I want an invitation to come and see an African bullfrog or a redback. Frogs are fascinating and I really enjoy that. But I want an invitation, Mark, to come and see and explore that wonderful place. Just to touch on what we saw there, if it wasn't clear for you, I consider myself somewhat of a protege, as you can see in this formation right here. What we were seeing there is the egg. That was one single tiny little egg laid by an animal called a lacewing. They fall into a very large group called Neoptera, and this would consist of lacewings, antlions, and their king. But what we were viewing there on that one little leaf is the stalk. There's the stalk that the animal would have produced. So this would be from the female taking her back end, the ovipositor, and then she would place her bum onto the little leaf, and then she would lift it up in that formation, drawing out this liquid form which almost instantly hardens. She then at the end would have placed an egg right on top. And I mean, what a remarkable way of laying one's eggs. And I mean, like I've said countless times, when it comes to leaving that egg there, the chances of it being found and eaten are very, very high. So insects and birds and mammals need to be very clever. And like I mentioned, this stalk is so thin, ants collect everything, and they eat a large or wide variety of food items. But this stalk is so thin, an ant could walk right through here, and it would not even recognize these little structures, keeping the egg safe and out of harm's way from things like ants. So just to show everybody what a lacewing is, we'll take a look on I won't try and draw it because my drawing skills, as I said, I am a protege, but I'm still in the working of things. So it's still going to take me a few years to get up to a higher status. But what a lacewing is these beautiful insects here. And I mean, look at that. Very distinctive. You can see the veins within. Let me just get this, sorry. You can see the distinctive veins within the wings. That's a very distinctive characteristic of these animals. And then adults will have chewing mouth parts. And they are mostly predators that feed on other animals, but they can also feed on nectar and as well as pollen. And Tswalu exhibits a very, very large diversity of these wonderful insects. They somewhat resemble that of a dragonfly. I mean, you can be mistaken in the beginning stages to thinking, oh, it's a dragonfly. But dragonflies don't really fly at night time. As in where these wings are held in a specific formation. You can look at these veins here. Look how distinctive that is. Look at that. Amazing insects. So the wings held in a certain position shows us that it is not a dragonfly, as well as the position of the eyes, and as well as their very slow and lethargic flight pattern. They are not very strong flyers. They are attracted to lights, as in where if you take a look at a dragonfly, it is a remarkable flyer. And you get ribbon wings, and look at these trailing streamers, they call them. Look at that. There are the wings. And look at those streamers. Look how long that appendage is. So remarkable insects. So we have spoken about antlions. I'm sure you folks would have remembered those circular or conical depressions in the soil that is typical through Africa. These are antlions in their larval stage, which inhabit these conical pits. And those conical pits are designed to trap little animals, where this larvae would be sitting just at the bottom of that conical pit with its jaws, its massive interlocking jaws, just below the ground, and then obviously waiting for an unexpected victim to gobble up. All right, so now that we've touched bases on that lovely insect, let's start up this trusty steed. I just want to get my sunscreen. Obviously very important when you guys are out in the bush or on the ocean, just to make sure that you wear full protection, please. The more you look after your skin, the better it is going to be for the long run. Okay. Jealous.com, Mark. All the frogs there. Whew. Lovely. We have not made it very far this morning. We have just crossed the first block. Going out west. through. There's so much stuff. On the right, yeah. Nora, are there any invasive plants on Swartland? There has been, but that's where the very effective measures come into play of having a conservation or a wildlife team. If you take a look at managing a place, it is natural in a sense, but there is, unfortunately, I can't tell you there isn't. There is some little forms of human interaction, and removing alien species would be a very important task that is played out by a certain department within a reserve. And if you take a look at their job, it is very, very important, because removing of alien species is of vital importance, because if you have an introduced alien species from a different part of the country or the different part of the world, that alien species can be very dominant. It basically what we call an ecological equivalent. So basically this species able to thrive within a habitat off of its natural range, but then does very well in a new area and then can dominate and actually eliminate our native species. And that's a problem around the world, folks, is that where we have relocated plants, birds, mammals, reptiles into areas that they are not supposed to be. And that can have a massive effect on the healthy functioning or ecology of an ecosystem. So what we're busy looking at over here is a tiny little beetle. I just want to get a little bit closer to try and ID. He is face first inside there. Ooh la la. So let me try and turn this plant. All right, there's lots of corn creeks. Let me try and turn this plant so we can see him a bit better. You got him there, Morgan? Got him? Yep. Got him. Morgan's got him. All right. And he is having a little breakfast. The petals of plants obviously are highly favored. And I don't know about their nutritional content, but I've seen a lot of beetles eating on petals themselves. And this is a little beetle. We can see by its body plan. So if we're looking at, for example, what we're looking at now, that beautiful lacewing, you can see that the body plan is very different. And beetles have a very distinctive body plan. This little beetle is showing us that we need to be a little bit careful. And with these beetles are called blister beetles. And they've got a very distinctive small head, small midsection, and then this very long back end over here. And you can see the colors. I mean, that is not, nice, pretty colors. Those colors are showing you, if you look at aposematic coloration, black, red, yellow, all these warning colors, and as well as patterns, these insects are showing you, visually showing that you need to be careful around me. So blister beetle, hence the name blister, they are able to emit a form of acid that actually can create severe blisters. And unfortunately, some of the guides have experienced it firsthand. And we do have a large variety of them over here, and then their abundance is fairly prominent. And at night time, you really don't react to something as quickly as if you were awake. And we have had guides wake up the next morning and put their guiding shirt on, ready to get in the safari vehicle, and something just doesn't feel right, on my back. And then on close investigation of lifting their shirt, there is about a palm-sized area of physical blisters. So the chemicals that this beautiful little insect is able to emit actually burns and blisters the skin, hence the common name, blister beetles. And so things like this is where I've mentioned just to be very careful with, because you want to enjoy wildlife in all various forms, and you don't want to have a bad experience with it, because a bad experience can really put you off from enjoying these spectacles. So busy eating using its external mouth parts, or its chewing mouth parts right now. That is another characteristic with Coleoptera. Jerome, how long do the blisters last? That would vary, but I would say at about a day or two, they swell up and then unfortunately they burst. And then you have a bit of oozing of fluid, and you want to keep that dry as possible. With chemical burns, you want to be very careful. You don't want to put ointment on it because then it keeps it moist. You're going to have the bacteria build up. So you want to keep it clean, and you want to keep it aerated. You want to keep it nice and fresh, so to say. But the gentleman that got burnt was actually Moritz. So he can give you first-hand experience when he gets back into the hot seat of how uncomfortable it was. And unfortunately it was just when he more than likely rolled over in bed, just shifting his weight, where he got a little bit close to a blister beetle. And the blister beetle said, how's it? What? So about a day or two the blister would be there. I've heard people popping it and just releasing the fluid itself and then keeping that area dry and obviously clean. Very important. So just his behavior, you can see how he's touching the anther, the male reproductive part. So this beetle, while eating on this beautiful petal, is picking up pollen. And now when he flies, they are able to fly. I think most of the species are able to fly. He will then go from this flower to the next flower, and he will take this reproductive content onto the next flower, so that deed is done. Fantastic. All right, little beetle, I'm going to interrupt your breakfast. Tri-state, this is a tiny guy, but we get ones that are very big. So let me show you here quickly. And if you take a look at those colors are distinctive through that family group. They're what they refer to as CRM or CMR beetles. And just have to be very careful. And if you're looking at beetles are incredible. And beetles around the world are very diverse. And if you look at beetles as a group, they are the most diverse group of organisms we know terrestrially. So far, 380,000 different described species. But look at that. So you can see that, look at that dark formation, but then as well as these bright or very prominent bands. This animal is showing you, please be careful around me. So this is what referred to as the elytra. This is basically a redundant wing that actually protects the wings sitting underneath. It's like a hard shield that protects and covers the very important flying bits. And I mean, these guys are, not great. Some of them being up to about 12 millimeters in length. Let's just get to the next page here. They stop there. But very distinctive colors and very prominently displayed. And like I said, these colors, please be careful. It is showing you, I'm foul tasting or I am dangerous. Please be aware. Please be aware. Okie dokie. Artichoke. Wait. I want to push the vehicle here. We've got ants. Somewhere along the lines, a gecko has died on the road here. And we've got ants that are eating it up. Look at this. Look at this. This is a little gecko, more than likely got killed last night by something. I don't know what could have killed it. It still looks fairly intact. But look at the ants going to work on that animal. They look like pugnacious ants from the view, and obviously using their very, very, very strong jaws to bite off pieces and then transport that material back to the nest. And really remarkable in how much weight these little insects can manage. There's been studies done that an ant can support 1,000 times. Just think about that, 1,000 times its own weight. It doesn't sound a lot in relation to how light or how little the animal weighs, but think about an elephant supporting 1,000 times its own weight. I mean, that is just mind-boggling. and they're busy taking all the stuff back to the nest to provision the nest. So animal matter as well as plant matter. And if you take a look at seeds are distributed a lot and very efficiently by these small and tiny little creatures. Superorganisms, as we refer them to as. Thinking with one collective conscience. How everybody knows what to do is remarkable. So you can see how the material from this animal's body is not just lost. Nothing is lost within the natural world. In all ecosystems, your energy is never just lost or just vanishes. Everything is just redistributed or just moves through different spheres or different sectors of the ecosystem. I find that fascinating. It's almost like an efficient recycling plant, the globe, on how everything is just moved, but everything is utilized and reutilized again. Wow, they are going to town. So there'll be larger individuals that'll obviously be there for protection, and then you got the workers which are very hard at work at removing parts of the body. And they've laid special trails down via pheromones, a very unique scent signature that these ants will follow to and from the nest. I mean, they can move quite a distance from a nest in search of food, these feeding parties going out. And once they've located, they'll lay this trail down, and then the rest of the colony will follow up to come and collect this life-giving food. Everybody having a very specific role within this colony. Rowan, great comment there. They are. And if you think about the system itself, it is driven by these smaller, inconspicuous animals, something that, we would just walk by and not really care about, but playing a very, very important role to the existence of the ecosystem, but then also the existence of us. If we remove insects, we are in very big trouble. We will not be clever at removing insects because we will be affecting future generations. And the importance of them globally is of a very, very high degree. Think about bees and what the role that bees play in food production. I mean, if you take a look at parts of the world, we are now artificially pollinating plants to produce the food needed to feed people. But insects do that by themselves. That's why we have to be careful on what we use. When you want to spray your house, if you don't like insects in it, be careful of what you're spraying in your house. Be careful of what products you are using. Make sure it is safe for animals, but most importantly, that is safe for you. Because some of these chemicals can be, oh my word, whoa. But let's leave these guys be for a little bit and let's send you over to Pinder.
Welcome back to And Beyond Pinder. We've had quite a quiet morning with a bit of rain here and there, but we've come across quite a lovely scene here with this single wildebeest bull just sitting here in a nice sandy patch. If you look at his face, he's covered in mud, as well as his body and his horns as well. What they'll do is they'll often rub their horns and their face inside the mud, their horns to try and make them look a little bit bigger, and their face, I don't know if you can see, but just in front of their eyes, on their nose, they've got these two glands there, and by rubbing it into the soil, they're leaving their scent, so that if any other wildebeest come past you, they know this is the territory of this bull. They also have very, very special glands between their hooves, and often they'll scrape those hooves through the sand or through the ground and leave their mark or their scent like that too. But you can see this guy's just taking it easy here. He's just chewing his cud and grooming himself a little bit. If you look just to the right, there are also some warthogs that are just pushing through the thicket there. They're also just resting with their heads out. Oh, and look, there's some monkeys just up above. Some vervet monkeys they seem to be feeding on some, what we call kubu berries. It's a kubu berry tree. See that one sitting there actually eating one at the moment. I find monkeys always look so mischievous. Look at the one going right to the top of the tree now. On the right hand side there, let's see if you can find one of those delicious red berries. I can see one, I'm not sure if he can see it. Oh, and the one on the left there's just managed to find two. Just reaching through there. It's amazing how they can balance like that with one leg on such a flimsy little branch. Oh, if you look at the one at the bottom on the right, there's just a very, very young monkey just to the left there in a gap. Really nice gap now. Oh, can you see that? So sweet. That youngster looks only a couple of weeks old. Look at it trying on the flimsy branch. Fascinated by us. You can see he's just moving around, not too sure what we are. You can see that light color around its face still, just showing how young it is. I'm sure Mama's not too far away. You can see just retreating maybe back towards where safety is. Very, very sweet. Oh, look at that little jump. And I'm sure that youngster can get onto branches where the bigger monkeys can't. So he might be able to, or it might be able to get to fruit that the other ones won't be able to get to. I've tried eating one of these kubu berries before and they're actually very, very bitter. So they must have quite a strong metabolism to be able to handle all of these berries, because that one in the middle now, he's just been chomping. I've seen him eat 5 or 6 now already. Look at the youngster there, just on the right-hand side now. Managed to find Mum. Very, very sweet. I love how they hold on to Mum from the underneath, and they can jump around and they hold on really, really tight. There we go. I've just gone into the background now. Kritz Afrika, I agree with you. It's nice to see them especially when they're not around the lodge. when they're around the lodge, they can cause a little bit of trouble, especially if you leave a window open. But it's always lovely to see them out here. And they're actually really, really useful when looking for some of the predators. As you can see, they're really high up in that tree. And if they had to see a leopard or a lion or a cheetah walk past, they would start screaming at it and shouting at it, and we call it an alarm call. And when we hear that, you know, okay, let's go to that area, because there could be something around. So monkeys are very, very helpful. But it's quite an interesting combination we got here with the wildebeest, 2 warthogs and a troop of monkeys.
Come on to the warthog.
You can see those warthogs are just relaxing out there. Nice little puddle to our left as well, so I'm sure if the sun does decide to come out at some stage today, they would probably head towards that little mud wallow. But I don't know if you can see, but these warthogs are resting really, really easily, and I think it's due to the fact that there are monkeys around that will spot some predators or some threats before they do. So if they hear those monkeys alarm calling, then they will go straight back into a burrow and hide away until the threat's gone or the monkeys stop alarm calling. But Chris, the monkeys, yeah, so they're omnivores, so they will eat a little bit of meat if they do find some. But their main diet is fruits and berries. Look at that youngster just coming out again, having a little look. I'd love it to imagine if it climbed down and jumped on one of those warthogs. That'd be quite funny. You can see it just coming out to the left of the tree now. Yeah, but monkeys have amazing sense of eyesight, as well as hearing. So the other animals around here really do rely on one another. I wonder if one of those monkeys had to drop one of these berries near one of the warthogs, and if the warthogs would go and pick it up and feed on it, because they do often eat a bit of fruit as well. But these monkeys don't look that clumsy, so I'm not sure if they're going to be dropping any berries.
Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a Wild Earth explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle, and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
In a world full of upheaval, we all need a quiet and safe space to breathe. A place where anxiety and stress don't exist. A place where life carries on as normal. Escape to nature with Wild Earth.
Alright, just before it flies off, I want you folks to focus on that long, almost spine-like tail. Look at that tail, very, very distinctive. You can see a plain neck going down. If it does turn, it's got a slight little band across the breast. Beautiful sandgrass species here. This will be the male version. What we'll do is we'll take a look at it in the book now. It's going to fly. Just want to move off here for a guide very quickly. Just hold on to me quickly, folks. Let's just move off over here. So that was a beautiful sandgrass species. So it's going to park like this. There's a little inlet, and let's take a look at that very quickly. So that tail being very, very distinctive. And if you take a look at those characteristics, those are unmistakable. And I heard a question that FC sent over to me. What is my most memorable guiding moment on Tswalu? To be honest, it actually wasn't when I was guiding. It's when I first got to Tswalu for my interview, believe it or not. We went on drive for an afternoon. I was lucky enough to go on drive with the guide and the guests. They didn't mind me on the vehicle. And we went out, and I thought, what a magical place. And then along the lines I'd read and I understood what a pangolin was, but I'd never thought I'd see one, not on my interview. And we went out into the first dunes. This is obviously in the midst of winter. And the guide just said, come, we're going to jump off. We started walking for about 20 minutes. And eventually I saw this like shiny brown thing in and amongst the grass. And I thought, what in the name is that? I didn't know what we were going to see it, obviously. And the guide said to me, just sit down. And I thought, this guide must be bloody crazy. So I sat down, and he eventually told me, lay on your stomach. So I laid on my stomach, and this pangolin walked straight out of the bushes, literally en route towards me. And about a meter before meeting me, this animal broke off and turned Broadway, or sideways to me, and then meandered off. And I was just in absolute awe of the morphological structure, the appearance of this animal, its unique appearance of this animal, and how lucky I was to see it. So just to touch on there very quickly, sorry, I'm bouncing around. There's that long spine-like or pointy tail you can see there from the Namakwa sandgrass. And that was a male that we were looking at. You can see that nice plain uniform chest. Lovely bird to see, and very special. All these sandgrass species are really remarkable birds. Well, hopefully that's another one for the list. I don't know if we've actually seen Namakwa sandgrass on Safari Live yet, but nevertheless, it is still a very beautiful species to see. Well, it has been absolutely magical joining us here at Tswalu Kalahari. Please be sure to jump on board with us this afternoon for the Sunset Safari, where hopefully we'll have a little more diversity for you in terms of content. But nonetheless, thank you so much. We'll see you later.